Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Keith, and welcome to my review of Star Wars The Last Jedi. And for those of you about to wonder, yes, my spoiler-free review of Star Wars The Last Jedi. Now, I gotta tell you, being a director of a Star Wars movie, I would think would be a blessing and a curse. A blessing because you are at the reins of one of, if not the biggest franchises in movie history. A curse because if you do anything to tick off the fanboys, you are going to be hearing about it for the rest of your life. So we all love George Lucas because he created Star Wars, but we weren't really in love with episodes 1, 2, and 3, were we? Now, Rian Johnson, the director of The Last Jedi, is going to get to know that very quickly because some people are absolutely loving this movie, some people are absolutely hating this movie. And I'm going to give you my take on it in just a moment. But consider this. If you were to take the last few films made by Daisy Ridley, John Boyega, and Adam Driver. So we're talking Murder on the Orient Express. I'll put in Detroit and The Circle for John Boyega and Logan Lucky and take the box office for all four of those films. I guarantee you that Star Wars will eclipse that total this weekend. This is going to be a monster hit. One of, if not, the biggest movies of the year. I'll be very interested to see what its box office is over the first couple weeks. But let's talk about this film. So I don't want to get into a lot about the movie because I don't want to give a lot away. Going into this movie, I'd seen the trailers. I purposely stayed off of IMDb because I didn't want to know about any sort of cameos or who was going to be in the film. And yes, there are some fun cameos. But what I can tell you is this. This is somewhat of a departure from other Star Wars films that we've seen, but there are some elements from other Star Wars movies that have remained. Kind of vague, right? Let me explain it like this. If you were going into this film thinking to yourself, as I was, this is the second movie in a trilogy, so we're not necessarily going to get closure, but we're going to move the story along, then that is what you're going to get. But if you're going into this movie thinking that you're going to see a lot of the same things that you've seen in previous Star Wars movies, from that end, then, I believe you're going to be disappointed. Because what Rian Johnson and the Disney team do is they kind of take this to a different level. This is a very entertaining film, and the acting in this film was extremely well done. Daisy Ridley is extremely solid as Rey. Adam Driver, of course, fantastic as Kylo Ren. We've got Mark Hamill. We've got Carrie Fisher. We've got a really strong cast in this movie, and from a script standpoint, they do a really good job of distributing material to all of the actors, so nobody feels wasted in the film. From a cinematography standpoint, oh child, this is a beautiful movie with locations that included Bolivia, Iceland, Croatia. The set, direction, and the cinematography in this film is beautiful. 3D works in this film. Do you need to see it in 3D? Not necessarily, but if you do see it in 3D, I don't think you'll be disappointed. If you have not seen The Force Awakens and you're going into this movie blind, I think you'll be missing out on quite a bit. So definitely do a Force Awakens refresher if you don't remember it or if you haven't seen it. This is an entertaining film. I enjoyed it. 2.5 hours. It didn't feel 2.5 hours, but again, you're talking to a guy who was extremely excited to see this film. I think Rian Johnson made a really good film. I was a little skeptical when he was handed the directing reins. I mean, the last movie that I saw he did was Looper, which was good, but I don't know how you go from Looper to a Star Wars movie. Obviously, Disney had no concerns because they're getting ready to hand him over more Star Wars projects. Last time we saw a big Star Wars movie, with all due respect to Rogue One, was The Force Awakens, and there was so much pressure on J.J. Abrams. Could this guy transfer from being on a Star Trek set to Star Wars and make a great movie? And a lot of people criticized it. They said, oh, it was just a remake. Whereas I found it was more paying homage to previous Star Wars movies and forwarding the story. I found with this film, it's the middle film, so there's some challenges therein. But I think Rian Johnson and his team put together a very entertaining film, which, again, coming in towards the end of the year, is going to stand out as one of the most unique films of the year. Some people are going to like it, some people aren't, and that's fair, to each their own. You're looking at my review, and I got to tell you, I liked it. It was very unique. It was very different. It's not your mama and dad's type of Star Wars, which is okay by me. And I think people obviously are going to be checking this out in waves. I hope you get a chance to check it out, and I'm giving this a B+. If you get a chance to see Star Wars The Last Jedi, let me know what you think. CFL_fan on Twitter, Facebook.com/WittyWhittier, and WittyWhittier.com. Thank you so much for checking this out. My name is Keith, and I'll see you at the movies.